All right, another episode of the Michael Ketchen Show, joined again by Matthew Hitchcock. Thank you for being here. And a special guest, Mr. Geoffrey Gane, coming all the way from Michigan.
Yes, sir.
The only time of the year that Michigan actually has good weather. So thank you for coming. You brought the rain.
Yeah.
Not very nice of you. You were one of the people I was so excited to have on a show. I was telling Matt, though.
Super interesting story.
Because, well, one, his story is definitely just unique, but also, like, we met at a mastermind we're in called The 50. Shout out to our guys for that. Matt Francois, Ian Bishop, and Brandon Turner putting that on. Great mastermind. We connected. So thankful for that. Also, shout out to John Farley. Let's just give John some love. We'll get him on here at some point if he ever leaves Ohio. And we talked, and I swear, like, everyone flocked to this guy, the first meetup, because we're all going around the room, typical, boring agenda they put together with all those intros and everything. And Jeff goes, yeah, so I do assisted living. And I'm like, oh, I don't give a shit about that. I'm already tuning out. And then he goes, yeah, I'm getting like $9,000 a month in the bedroom. And my head, I almost broke my neck. My head whipped around so quick. And I was like, that's a guy I'm going to talk to.
Yeah.
And then turns out you like cigars. So we hit it off right there. We basically were best friends at that point. So just to jump right into it, because assisted living is a lot of different things. Tell us a little bit about your kind of assisted living, what you're doing, and then we'll work backwards.
Yeah, so most people, I think, when they think about assisted living, it's the big box, the ones that you drive by, that you see the big 4 or 5 story buildings. We're doing it a little bit different, so we do more of a residential style. So we have anywhere from 6 to 20 residents within, and it's definitely more of a home type of a feeling.
Yeah.
So the biggest difference for that really is if you go to the big box facilities, you hear about all the complaints about the level of care. The residents to staff ratios are like 30 to 1, and ours are 6 to 1, 5 to 1.
Yep.
So that's kind of more of the side that we focused on. And we just, through looking at a lot of different metrics, noticed that there's kind of a movement of the kids that are putting their parents in these facilities. They're now looking for more intimate care as opposed to just putting your parents somewhere.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where the niche that we found.
Yeah, and I remember we got on a call right away because we were so intrigued by it.
Yeah.
And staying with that for a second, because you said something a second ago, just for those who might not be familiar, so we give a little bit of an intro. Assisted care, like when I thought of assisted care, like the city we grew up in had a few, you drive by, it's like that old rundown brick building. Now there's some other bigger ones coming, but this is like, I would live in one of these places. This is like truly luxury. Talk to a little bit about what you guys put into a building, what that looks like.
Yeah, so I think like any other asset, there's various levels, right? There's what in classes could be from a D level all the way up to an A, right? And so we've kind of carved out this little niche, or we kind of have a motto. It's like life, love, and luxury. So we're about making this a stage in life, not the end of life. So that's kind of the life part. Love, again, having that lower resident to caregiver ratio allows our caregivers to love on our residents in a way that you can't do at the big box facilities. And then luxury, we just, we have hair salons, nail salons.
Inside the building?
Yeah, inside the building. So
I think my wife's about to move in.
We'll have people come back. We'll have, outside people come in and provide those services. We have every sort of specialty doctor that comes in and sees our residents. We have volunteers that come and visit. We have walking paths, so we'll have people come and walk our residents around. So it's just really high touch, which again, in the big box facilities, they're just not staffed to be able to do that.
So it's almost like a live, work, play, but on the elder side of things.
Yeah, which a lot of independent living is kind of sold that way.
Yeah.
But once you hit that assisted living, which really is like needing help with, there's a total of 9 ADLs, or activities of daily living. And once you need help with about 3 to 5 of those, that's when you kind of move into
Can you go back, break that down for people? What was it, that acronym you just used?
ADLs.
So there's 9 stages of it?
There's 9 activities of daily living.
Okay.
So it's like bathing, eating, everything that we would do on a normal, if you're fully functioning, you can do all of those things. Medication management, things like that.
Okay, so is it like, that's one thing we talked about where I think it was interesting, because we were looking at those kind of progressions. You're kind of getting folks where they still are kind of independently functioning, but they need maybe that lower rung of some check-ins daily, weekly. What does that look like?
Yeah, so I've, had go through a pretty big education curve because I don't come from that field.
Yeah, you're a multifamily guy first, like us, right?
Yeah, single family, multifamily. That's
Yeah.
kind of what I've done for the past 7 or 8 years, and then over the past couple of years, got into this assisted living piece. But it's really, there is those different stages. So it's, you start out and you just live in your own home, then you move to an independent living, which is, more your kind of very community based. You're with people, you're moving around, you can still drive. Once you get to assisted living, you're normally not driving anymore. It might be more memory care, so dementia, Alzheimer's, things like that. And then there's the last phase, which is skilled nursing, which is you really need medical care. And so assisted living, where we're at, it's non-medical. So that's why we bring those services in just for visits. But we're not providing medical care. But we do have people there, caregivers, 24/7. So
Gotcha.
somebody's always watching them, always helping them. So we kind of are
Yeah, it's very
with
unique.
them around the clock.
And what area in the country are you primarily?
Right now, we're solely in Michigan.
You are, okay.
Yeah, mainly Southeast Michigan. But again, you just look at the demographics. I think for us, there's about 76 million baby boomers who are just starting to hit that retirement age.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And the number one dilemma in that space is housing. You
Sure.
know, and so we kind of looked at that dilemma as our opportunity to go in and figure out a better way to do it. And what we noticed is that especially in this segment that we're in, it's run by a lot of retired nurses, and they do everything A to Z. That's just not scalable. I unfortunately realized that in my real estate business, where I was such a integral part of what we were doing. And that's why I was looking for something that I could scale. And so that's where we landed on this model.
You need to talk to the last guy on one episode. You check out like episode 3 or whatever it was with Ian, because that's the EOS.
Yeah.
Plumbing in. That's exactly where we're at. It was the
Yep.
same thing. And I know that's what you're working on now. But because I want to go back to what you said a second ago, 75 million people coming. And there's a great book, I recommend it all the time, called Upside. And it was all based on demographics. And the guy talked about this in 2016, where this is because of the '08 crash, you had a gap in the economy that basically delayed the retirement. So it's like we have the perfect storm brewing, where instead of the natural progressions, more retirees were waiting, and now it's coming like a tsunami.
Yeah.
And most people are not prepared for it. So, I mean, the whole system's going to be overrun. So from, basic real estate investing, from a supply and demand standpoint, I mean, you are attacking the ultimate. I mean, this is every market. This is inefficiency everywhere, I would imagine, correct?
Yeah. And it's funny you say this tsunami, because a lot of people call it the silver tsunami. So, over the next, I think
Is that because the
I'm
fuck is
thinking
it
the
the
hair?
the
'Cause
blue
the hair?
hairs?
Yeah.
What was it saying? The blue lights, I don't know, some old lady shit. I don't know. I don't remember what it
was
was.
probably some Florida
But
thing.
yeah,
yeah.
there's
they
a
call
sound
it
clip. That's the
silver
one Jake's
tsunami.
gonna take and fucking cut right there. The old lady shit. I'm dead. Just lost the whole demographic. But yeah,
But yeah, I mean, when you look at the demographics again, it's like 10,000 people turn 65 every single day, 4,000 people turn 80 every single day. And I mean, just as a nation, we're living longer, but not healthier. So people need more. 7 out of 10 people need care after they hit retirement age. So, yeah, I mean, just go down the list of demographics and you're like, this, it seems like a no-brainer. And we're already 1.3 million beds short for current demand, and we haven't even hit that yet. So, yeah, I mean, it's a unique thing too, because obviously there's financial benefit to it,
Yep.
but it also, you feel like you're doing good, right? There's an aspect where, again, that life, love, luxury thing, like we're giving back in a way that it's unique to what we do.
yeah, like you
Sure.
won't put your
Yeah,
mother
100%.
in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
You'd feel good about putting like your parents or any loved one there.
When
Yeah,
he showed me
exactly.
one of them, it was absolutely. I mean, this thing is like legit, like luxury. I was like, I would stay there. I mean, I don't know if I could afford it with the rates you're getting, but you know what I mean? So talk to us. Like, that was one other thing I thought was so unique, that you guys pulled on this niche that I didn't know existed. And it made so much sense when you broke it down. You're getting a lot of people who might have sold a home and they're coming in to they might be taking the monthly payment from selling their home, or they might be doing a reverse mortgage to pay you guys, or all the kids chip in and the estate. So it's not necessarily, I wouldn't say it's not necessarily for everybody, but it's also not just going in that big apartment complex, but what are some of the rental rates? Like, what are you seeing on the demand side?
Yeah, so I think across the country, the average rate is $5,500 a month.
Yeah.
that gets pulled down a bit because that is inclusive of Medicaid, waiver.
So that lower tier is in that structure.
Correct.
Okay.
And so for us, we're anywhere from 6,500 up to 9,000.
Okay.
And again, I mean, it sounds like a lot of money, but when you think about living in your own home, food, groceries, mortgage, transportation, all of that, those kinds of things, if you add all of those up, plus the care piece, and if you were to bring somebody into your home, which people do, there's in-home care, if you had somebody at your house, one-on-one, 24/7, I mean, that's $30,000 a month without any question. There are people that do that. But by going up a few people within the
did you
same
say
home.
$30,000 a month?
Yeah, it's like $37 an hour times 24 hours a day.
Damn.
Yeah.
Smokes.
Yeah. So actually my business partner, he
20,
runs an in-home care company.
And he's making a margin on that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a phenomenal business, but he has some people that are $25,000, $30,000 a month that they're paying to have somebody come into their home.
But even like the
they still have a
labor-
mortgage. They still have groceries. They still have all the same stuff. So as you transition over to this model, those numbers are high for us coming from the space that we do.
Yeah.
But
C-class apartments? Yeah. Yeah, a little different. Don't think we're going to get $30,000 a month.
no. But then you look at what you get for it, and it starts to make a little bit more sense. But that silent generation, the baby boomer generation, they were good savers. We were just having that conversation, right? And so they do have assets. Now you go maybe a couple generations past that, I don't know what that looks like 40, 50 years down the road.
And
we weren't
That's
as good
yeah,
as
that's gonna be a
savers.
tough one.
That's where I think it's so interesting. And, it's like we talked about right before the cameras got rolling. Like, the old model doesn't work. The pension, save your way to retirement, like inflation has just eroded so much wealth in this country. And these are our most needy people, right? I mean, these are people at the end of life. They've made the sacrifice. And a lot of them's retirement plan is hope. And hope is not a fucking plan. Hope is just not a fucking plan. There's not another way to say it. So I think like you found this perfect niche, but it's also, again, on that supply and demand side. I mean, my wife's grandmother recently passed, unfortunately. I remember she was going through like a end of life care, whatever it was. It was $10,000 a month.
I remember when you guys.
I mean, the lady was in a bed. Mm-hmm. And it's like, fortunately, she sold a condo. She had some money. But all I was thinking about right away, it brought my mother back to my forefront because I was like, we need to accelerate her plan because what ends up happening becomes a burden on everybody. Not good or bad. It's not saying you don't want to help your family. That's not the point. The point is it is a burden. It's a stress. And I think it's an avoidable problem that I just feel like as a country, we're putting our head in the sand. And I don't know if we're looking ahead to that, where we're going with all of this. Like, do you think is there ever a chance? You think the government steps in and subsidizes? Like, where do we all think this ends up? Because that might be another opportunity.
I don't know how they don't. I mean, you're starting to see it. We see it in Michigan. They're coming out with new programs. There's this PACE program out there, and Medicaid pays somewhere in the $300 to $3,500 a month range. These PACE programs now are like $5,500 or more of like the average. So I think the government's going to have to get involved because there is that shortage,
Yeah.
And you look at it in comparison to, children. And I mean, they need care, right? They need care 24/7. So when you look at all of the programs that are in place to take care of children, we also need that for seniors because it's the kind of the same
Yeah, it's
deal.
like the two ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. And so there's not as much, there's a lot of neglect. There's a lot of bad things that happen in the senior space that would not be tolerated if it was children. So
is it kind of like even an ignored space in some ways almost?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I'm relatively new to this, but I've dove pretty deep over the past couple of years, and it's amazing to see kind of the
growth and
the
trajectory of it.
spectrum, and
Yeah. I guess what really stands out to me thinking about, like you just said, that almost even helps the supply and demand side further because as governments come in and subsidize it, right? It's just like government housing. People don't want to live there necessarily of means, people who can. So that almost gives you another tier of demographic that's going to pay to stay out of that. And I mean, the way we solve this is supply and demand, but we know that's not all the red tape. I mean, what is it like building one of these? A lot of red tape and permitting involved?
No, so the seniors are a protected class. So, you can be in an HOA, you can be in different areas that you traditionally couldn't in more of a business commercial type of model. So the red tape isn't really big. I think our biggest thing is we need to get a special use permit. which are,
Talk to us about that a
Correct.
little bit. What does that look like?
I mean, it's literally going on to the municipality, telling them what you want to do, and they send you a piece of paper. It's very, very simple.
So to your point, if this was kids, try opening a school. It's like getting
Yeah.
a colonoscopy every day. It's fucking terrible.
Right.
But for us seniors, for the people we care about, the people who put us in this position, you show up and get a fucking rubber stamp.
Yeah. Now, I mean, there's lots
Poor
of
grandmas and grandpas are out there just.
there's lots of levels to it, but there's also licensed and unlicensed homes.
Are you guys licensed or
All of
unlicensed?
ours are licensed.
Okay.
And so that is the state comes out. If you're over 7 residents, you need fire suppression, and they come out and inspect that and the alarms and all that. You don't need to be ADA compliant, but a lot of the same things apply.
Okay.
So we have like roll-in showers and grab bars and all of those kinds of things. But that's not an overwhelming process by itself either.
Are you starting to look other places too, other than just Michigan, or you think that that's your niche is just to stay?
Maybe
in
like
that
New
area?
Hampshire, if you want to partner with a
I'll
company
tell you what, New
called
Hampshire's
Commonwealth
cost of care
Collective.
is very high.
I think we need a partner, Jeff.
I'm
We're
in.
doing this right here on the podcast.
I'm in.
All right.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we're looking, but right now our focus has been how do we perfect our model, right? So we've hired executive directors from the big box facilities to handle operations, to handle marketing and sales. Again, my focus, one of the main reasons I went into this at the beginning was I needed to pull myself out of the day-to-day stuff that I was doing in our real estate business.
Sure.
And so this business has been created in a completely different way. And so we've gone out and hired, again, try to find the type A kind of people that I'm just there to support them. I reiterate this to them all the time. How can I support you to do your job? And this is their space. They've been in it for decades, right? So it's really just me doing whatever I can to help support them to continue to do the great things that they do. So
Yeah. So really driving home the vision and letting the A players execute.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I feel like I keep hearing that somewhere. It's like
Yeah.
a life theme. It just keeps coming up to me. One of
I
these
know,
days,
but I
maybe I'll
didn't realize
listen.
how impactful that was, because growing up, I was like, I'll figure out a way, just pound the hammer and keep going. But
Yeah.
you just can only go so far that way.
Yeah,
I feel like that's the entrepreneur journey, though. It's like
it is.
Your superpower is you're stubborn.
Multiple like walls. I feel like that you just
Yeah.
kind of break through.
And then like someone like comes along and says something to you, you're like, oh yeah, I'm an idiot. Like I
Yeah.
should have been doing it this way. Like I don't
You
know.
got to learn through experience. That's how it goes.
You do. You gotta
Well,
get.
and that's where the networking piece comes in too, because I feel like a lot of times we act in silos. Like I'm just focused on my thing. But then when you start talking to other people that are doing other bigger things, you're like, oh, it's not that scary. I can do that. And then you keep pushing yourself.
That's actually, you know what? That's a good question. I asked both of you because we're there. Because I said to Matt, like, I feel like to the outside world, people would think like I'm really aggressive, like I'm really like I go. Internally, I think I've been playing small. But what I mean by that is you got to get in the room with people who are thinking so big. Like I've told the story before, and like the first time I met Brandon in Maui, I kind of blacked out after the first 5 minutes because my mind started going. Because the way he mapped out the mastermind we're in when he talked about it, he didn't talk about it in a way where it was like, oh, I might do this thing. It was such a casual conversation, but it was so big. Like I walked back to meet Hannah and my mind was just going a million miles an hour. And then sure enough, look where we were 18 months ago to now. And now look where we're going. Like I just made it real. I just put on Instagram, hey, we're going to $1 billion. Absolutely fucking terrifying. But by putting it out there and manifesting it and getting in there, which you got to be like, at least for me anyways, I don't know if you guys are the same, you have to be around people who are thinking so much bigger because it almost makes it real.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of it's the same game, but you got to allow yourself to play that big.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes we almost play it too safe, right? It's like that imposter syndrome. It's like, oh, I don't know if I can raise capital from that guy, or I've got to do everything so I can only go this fast. What has it been like? I mean, I have a team, right? We have partners. We have me, Matt, Hannah. We have 3 owners. You have one partner in this, I believe, in this venture.
Yeah.
How do you guys counterbalance each other?
Yeah, so again, he has the in-home care experience, the caregivers, the operations piece. Like he's phenomenal at that piece.
Yep.
My role has been more on the real estate side, finding the luxury properties, finding ways to, create the vision, to expand. How do we keep moving forward? So it's kind of been good because he has big thoughts. But when we first met, we were actually introduced through a life coach that we have, which is kind of a crazy story. But we met once, and the first time we went through some stuff, and I was kind of telling him about my vision, and he walked away from that, went back to that life coach, and like, I'm thinking the same thing, thinking too small, right? And so I think it's just that having somebody else, because again, I did it on my own for so long, you inherently just keep pushing one another, like whether it's an idea or a vision, and
Yeah.
they kind of go back and forth. And so I couldn't do it without him because I didn't know that piece of it.
Yeah.
And I don't think he could do it without me because he didn't have that kind of a vision. So yeah, I think that's really where kind of our lanes are right
Thinking
now.
bigger. So I got a lot of questions. One, because I want to get this out there because people are going to be so curious when they hear this. Would you recommend, now that you've done both, would you recommend retrofitting a house or doing ground up construction now that you've done both for this asset?
So I think if you're getting into it, I would buy an existing. People that are operating right now are, again, the retired nurse. They don't know what they have. And the deals that we've been able to get on these businesses and the properties has been insane.
Yeah.
And so I've taken the same approach, which is why I love what you guys do so much too, is like that burst strategy to me is the most genius thing in the world.
Yeah.
And so I've just now taken that and how can I apply it to this business? And I look at what we're acquiring these for. We're getting them appraised, kind of independently. And to see how much more they're worth than what we're able to buy them for it's insane. So that's our same plan. We're just burning the businesses and the properties.
And how are you, because I think we talked about this before, because this is one thing you and I spent a lot of time on because it's such a unique cash flow business.
I know we had an hour call with him, just like
just
picking his brain.
Because I was
We're
like,
okay.
so are you basically doing an income-based appraisal?
For the real estate side, yes. And then operations is just a multiple off of EBITDA.
Yeah, so just quick little real estate tip in case people aren't familiar. When you get an appraisal on a commercial asset, you can do the income approach, you can do the comp approach, you can do a blended approach. I would imagine this is the independent approach because, the income approach because it's so unique, which then that leads to the next thing. 5 years from now, what does it look like for you?
That's an interesting question. I think we're uniquely positioned, which I didn't even think was going to be a thing, to literally be the industry leader in this segment of this asset class.
Okay.
And so that's why, again, we've tried to really hone in on how we do this so that we can just continue to repeat it as we go across the country. So from 5 years from now, I think we'll be in multiple states. And I'm hoping that we can help other people get into it. The demand is there, right? And
Clearly,
so
yeah.
it's not like we have to keep this secret to ourselves. Like I'm happy, I'd share it. I know we've talked about it. I've talked to hundreds of people about it. And so I just feel like we have the opportunity to not only grow our own business, but also to kind of help other people get into this if they have the right, it's operations are tough,
Yeah.
right? This
Yeah.
isn't, you're not just buying something and it goes. Like there's a whole piece to it.
That execution
yeah.
piece.
Yeah.
It's for a lot of people. I mean, think of all the inefficiencies we find in the market.
Yeah.
And this is like, I feel like this would be
We're
that on
continuing to
steroids.
uncover every time.
Yeah, every time.
Like we found a couple, and then next deal we're like, oh, this is not working right. Another one, this one's not working. We kind of tweak a little bit as we go.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
it's-
recently I heard somebody say, they were talking about, making money and I want to make X amount. And a lot of people will be like, okay, if I make $10,000, I want to make 20,000. And then like, if I could only make 20,000, like I'd be perfect. And he was just saying like, put the word only in front of your biggest goal. Like it's only 20,000. And it's not like in an arrogant way, but just I think psychologically we then open ourselves up to figuring things out as opposed to like, that's the ceiling.
Yeah.
And so I've tried to do that too. And this is like, I almost don't even want to create the vision for 5 years because I don't want to limit myself to what we're going to do. So
I would push
That's a
you
good
on
point.
that. I don't know. I would
like
push
it.
you on that.
I like it.
Well, yeah, but I recently had an experience. My BHG was wrong, my big hairy goal. Actually, looking back, mine stand for bitch hairy goal because mine wasn't big enough. I guess what I would say to that, and that goes back to the conversation we had earlier, at least in my opinion, and me and Matt haven't had a chance to debrief, but I think that, like, that's an acronym everyone uses, right? Like, you need a big 5-year goal. Everyone says that, right? Same thing. My personality, I was like, I'm going to go fast. Here's my big goal. But I then realized in retrospect, now being around and thinking about it, having some experiences, I think that goal is supposed to intentionally make you so uncomfortable that when you think about it, it starts to get like you can't breathe. And that's kind of the shift that I'm making. That's why, like I said, I would challenge it, because it's like, you don't want to say, because you don't want to limit yourself, but if you flip that on the inverse, I feel like it's a dangerous game, because that's the trap I fell into. And then again, we just told our coach, our consultant, I want to redo this whole thing, right? Because now I'm realizing that's your roadmap, that's your anchor. And I mean, I was a fucking teacher. Like, we did this. But because, again, that limiting belief, I was playing so safe that I'm like, no. That needs to go make me, like, I'm talking about going to a place that most people won't go to because they literally cannot think that big. And that's okay. And it's going to be uncomfortable. And we're going to trip and we're going to fall and we're going to fuck up and probably going to get sued again.
Fuck up forward.
Yeah, fuck up forward. But that's a BHG. That's a big, hairy goal. And that's how I'm repositioning. So I guess that's what I would challenge you to do. Like, don't limit yourself, because honestly, you're one of the smartest dudes I've met. Like, you are so impressive with the way you understand this and to pivot. And like, it's not easy changing asset classes. Like, to everyone at home, they're probably like, oh yeah, I'm going to flip a house. I'm going to burr a house. Cool. Go try to do multiple asset classes. Anyone I've met who does that, and they tell you they're successful being a wholesaler, a hard money lender, a multifamily guy, a developer, usually they're full of shit, right? Because they're not good at one thing because they can't master it. So for you to go from multifamily to this and crush it, dude, you're sharp. I mean, I knew you were sharp, but it's really impressive. So, and one thing we've talked about, you have this head start where you've got it together, but it's coming. So to be a leader in that space, I think you have to safeguard your time so much and be so intentional. And again, it's easy for me to sit here and spend your money. But as your friend, as a person admiring you and seeing where you're going, I truly think the sky's the limit. I think that number needs to be, not even the number, like put the number to aside for a second, the lifestyle, the impact, the asset class that you can address for our most beloved, our parents and grandparents. You can be a leader in that space. But it's like when you map out that goal and you start thinking about the team you need to get you there, you're going to be struggling for breath for a bit.
Yeah.
But I'm so excited to see the next steps of your journey.
Well, and again, we're speaking of the network piece. Like, you and I had a conversation about that, about protecting the time, and you know, we still have a decent sized real estate portfolio. I don't have the systems and processes in place there. We've started to layer that in. But I was getting so hung up, so much of my time was still being focused on that, which, you know, again, dollar per hour, however you want to measure it, was not a good use of my time. So, you know, we really try to accelerate that over the past few months and probably taken at least 75% of it off of my plate, which has been huge in helping us to continue to kind of push this side. So, yeah, it's just a constant evolution.
100%.
But you need people there to push you, because otherwise there's nobody else there to kind of tell you need to change this or you need to change that. You need 100%. It from people that have done it.
100%. That's why I need Matt, because he doesn't like to spend the money. Matt says, okay, we'll figure it out. She gets outvoted. So that's what it is.
She does get outvoted quite a bit.
She gets outvoted quite a bit. She'll be here tonight. I'm going to deal some, probably going to get hit for that one. All right, so before we kind of wrap it up and get out of the question I want to ask, because we've asked a lot of guests this, we obviously met in a mastermind. You've gone through this ask class, you've gone through this growth. Where do you stand on coaching and masterminds? Because I know a lot of people kind of shy away from that. As I've got more successful, it's been instrumental to me. How do you feel about that stuff?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think earlier this year when I was meeting with life/performance coach that I have, it hit me that I've spent more money this past year on education and coaching than I made in my previous W-2 job, which was kind of wild.
Same exact thing last year.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane.
Which is wild. And now it's almost to the point, and I'm not superstitious, but I'm like, if I stop doing it, am I going to stop growing? So I've just continued to take the approach that if I can keep growing, then it's worth it, right? And certainly you need to be in the right ones. I mean, there's a lot of people that are selling courses and doing all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But if you're in the right one and you know when you're in it, you know, then it's, I don't see how you stop doing it. Now I'm starting to look in all different ways in my life. Like, could I get a coach to do that? And, you know, I played football growing up, played in college. Unfortunately, got pretty out of shape after that because I didn't have...
Isn't it hard sitting next to this guy? You just sit here, you're like, you know, I'm a fat piece of shit. He's got a 16-pack. And it's like, yeah, don't worry.
Well, I have a coach for that.
Yeah.
So, and so that's just every avenue of your life now. I'm like, can somebody teach me how to do it as opposed to me trying to figure it out? Because that's, again, I don't know if that's the entrepreneur thing what we were talking about before, but my default's always like, I'll learn it, understand it, and then I can perform it. But man, that's not a good use of time. So now I'm just like, how can I find a coach to do this, or somebody that's, knows how to do it, has been through it. So yeah, I think it's massive. It's just, you got to be in the right group, the right people.
I keep trying to get Matt to join. Matt won't join. I keep trying.
Oh.
Got to get him in one eventually.
Listen, you share all the Mastermind stuff with me.
Yeah, say, but I'll say that, and then the only other advice I think that is a superpower that we all struggle with is start saying to your people, "I don't know. What do you think?"
Yeah.
Every time I've done that, it pays off dividends, but it's so hard to like not give them the answer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's why, that Dan Martell thing about the 131.
Yeah.
I don't know if he talked about that in Seattle, but that's big too, because one, you're giving them ownership, but then it's kind of putting the onus back on them to figure out.
It really is.
Without having to keep interjecting my own thoughts. Because that's another thing too. I don't feel like I'm an arrogant person, but I always feel like I know the right thing to do.
Oh, dude, 100%. My personality, if I'm in a meeting, I mean, I literally took myself out of the Monday meetings with the team because it's people aren't going to participate.
Yeah.
So it's like, take myself out of it.
But what
make
great
them grow.
leadership to be able to recognize that, to
thank you, Jeff.
to remove yourself.
I accept that compliment. And have you talk to Hannah later as well.
Okay, I will.
So, all right, before we get out of here, where can people get in touch with you? Where can people hit you up, learn more about you?
Yeah, good question. So, I'm really bad at the social media thing.
Hey, I know somebody for that.
Yeah, I need to connect.
Yeah.
My wife kind of runs this one that we had for a real estate company, so it's called Real Estate Ganes, but Ganes. And that's kind of Instagram. Our senior living thing is OakBrookSeniorLiving.com. You can reach us through there. Yeah.
And I would tell anybody, shoot me a message, and I'll give you all of Jeff's contact info. Because he's an amazing guy. I'll get in touch. That's why I got. You got anything else?
No, I think I'm good.
All right, brother. Thank you again for being here. And as always, bet on yourself.